Hey, what's happening, gamers? Today we celebrate Kwing Review's 3-year anniversary. Keeping with tradition, it's time for our yearly Spider-Man review. This year we're taking an in-depth look at Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage for the Super Nintendo. If you guys want to click the link below this video to see the full director's cut in Season 4 style, I'm sure you guys will not be disappointed as I pulled out all the stops. Okay, it's time for us to grab our web shooters and zip line onto the streets of New York City to do battle with Carnage and his lackeys. Our story opens at Ravencroft, home to the criminally insane. Today isn't a normal prison transfer though, because Cassidy is anything but normal. Somehow the monster inside Cassidy is reawakened, and Carnage lives again.
Finally, we're whole again!
While slaying everyone in his path, Carnage bumps into a woman named Shriek. Bent on revenge, Carnage and Shriek seek out the amazing Spider-Man to literally paint the town red. Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage is a one-player side-scrolling beat-em-up arcade-style game for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. The actual format of the game mirrors Capcom's Final Fight and Sega's Streets of Rage to the T. Not that that's a terrible thing. Players start the game as the Amazing Spider-Man, but later you get to choose to play as Venom for certain parts in the game. Both characters do their share amount of web-slinging and wall-crawling in this game as well. In fact, LGN has scattered numerous hidden rooms and free guides requiring you to scale some buildings or swing webs to find them all. Spider-Man and Venom must work their way through hundreds of identical punks, square off against Carnage's gang. However, just like in the comic, these heroes don't have to fight alone. Once in a while, Spidey or Venom will come across a hero icon and can summon Black Cat, Cloak and Dagger, Firestar, Morbius, Deathlock, and Captain America into the fray. What's cool about these is each summoned hero fights differently depending on the character you play as. Example, Cat will attack all enemies on screen for the webhead, but will only pounce on one enemy for Venom. Every time the player completes a chapter, more than likely you'll have a boss you'll have to fight. Still, the overall goal of the game is to defeat Carnage and save New York City once again. Maximum Carnage definitely takes a page out of Final Fight's book. Heck, you could swap out the character models of Guy and Hagar as the superheroes' moves are virtually identical. Anyway, just like the other arcade games, you move your character around the screen and attack or jump. Spider-Man and Venom have the ability to perform powered-up moves when the red bar flashes, well, red. You release this charged attack by tapping the Y button, and these attacks vary in their uses. Also, the characters can tie up enemies using web attacks with the A button. And if enemies are surrounding you, either character can perform a smash attack. This is grabbing two enemies at once and taking them down with your web shooters, and it's pretty cool. Holding in the A button will create a shield, although honestly, I never really use this feature that much. Both heroes can pull enemies toward them by pressing forward and the A button. Super moves should only be used in a tight situation, and you do this by hitting jump and attack at the same time. But be warned, it will drain your health. Goons can be grabbed by walking into them, just like in Final Fight or Streets of Rage. Then you can either pummel them in the face or throw them like projectiles at their buddies. Likewise, both champions can interact with the environment and toss stuff at the baddies. Health is very rare in this game, so try not to take that much damage. Occasionally an enemy will drop a heart to refill your health, just don't rely on getting health that much. Besides the beat-em-up levels, there's at least one wall-crawling level. In order to climb up the wall, you need to jump onto it and then press the gamepad against the wall. Spidey will stick to the wall, no problem whatsoever. Then just use the gamepad to move him around, simple as that. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world do I swing webs, because Spidey is a swinging guy? Well, in order to swing your webs, you have to press the X button, and this will cause you to use your webs, or for Venom to use your suit. That's kind of gross. To cycle through the different hero icons, press the L button and call them to arms by tapping the R button. Gameplay for the most part was a lot of fun. As long as you don't rush into a fight and get surrounded, you should be golden. Of course this game is supposed to look like a living comic book, and if I may say so, the designers did an impeccable job. The stages looked very detailed and bright. From the patterns of the sidewalk, or the cracks in the buildings, or just the use of colors for the environments. Nothing seemed to be competing with one another for your attention, and it just meshed together so well. The character models also looked great, although back then it would have been difficult to add Spider-Man's web lines, so that's why he's all red. To make up for the lack of his detailed costume, both him and Venom have lots of muscles and excellent use of shading effects. Personally, the game looks really good and makes one wonder if LGN was pushing the system capabilities at all back then. For me, this game just looks spectacular and looks so good for a 2D game. Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage is one of the first video games to be based after a comic book story arc, rather than just having comic book characters creating their own storyline. Most of the game's cutscenes literally take a page out of its source material. This game is also the first Spider-Man game to receive a T rating. Well, considering how dark the story arc was in the comics, I guess that's a no-brainer. The game's soundtrack is courtesy of two sources. The main theme, called Carnage Rules, was written by a rock group called Green Jelly. The music recorded is some of the best MIDI heard on the Super Nintendo, and so much better than the Genesis. The actual game's score was composed by Chris Jojo and his team. Maximum Carnage released on both the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis September of 1994. The only way to tell the games apart was by their music. Both games looked amazing and definitely showcased 16-bit graphics. Critics, however, weren't too kind with this game, saying that it was very repetitive and not two-player. Even so, all agreed that this was the best Marvel game LGN had ever had their name attached to. Sadly, LGN and Acclaim would produce a sequel called Spider-Man Venom Separation Anxiety the following year, and LGN's bad Marvel game streak would continue yet again. Honestly, I kinda have to agree with the critics from decades past. This game is very repetitive. Most of the game consists of fighting the same enemy over and over again. The only difference is the game changes it up by changing their name and their color palette. That, and you will need to fight the same 4 bosses a lot, and I mean numerous times. It gets so annoying fighting these guys over and over again, and the bosses and enemies are both incredibly difficult, and you have to fight them more than one at a time, so they can easily gang up on you. Maximum Carnage is known for spanking lots of gamers over the years. No lie, it's a tough game. If players don't know the locations of the secret rooms, this game will kick your butt because they don't give you enough hearts to refill your health. Much like Final Fight, this game only is one player. At a time when 2-player games were very important selling points, this was a huge disappointment for gamers. I'm gonna end my rant with the final battle against Carnage. My biggest gripe with this final battle is the game removes all your superhero allies, leaving it just you and Venom against him. Now let me tell you, that puts you at a huge disadvantage. Having the heroes may not have made it easier, but probably more enjoyable and less stressful. My blood pressure was through the roof! Aside from the amazing visuals and the fact that this game did justice to Marvel's story arc, the gameplay is what made me love this game as a kid and respect this game over the years. So for most of the game, I always stuck with the wall crawler. It's also not a secret that playing as the web slinger is a little more challenging and offers more levels to play as well. Because Venom has much shorter levels, but the guy is a wicked huge powerhouse to play as. Parker is more balanced fighter, and I like that. One of the moves I loved using the most in this game was webbing an enemy toward me. I found so many practical uses for it, but I'm not gonna lie. I played bowling for bad guys a lot. Strike! Another move I wish I could have done more is when I send 2 thugs slamming into each other. This reminded me so much of the headbutt move in Batman Returns. Still, this move doesn't always work, but when it does, it's so epic. Web swinging is relatively easy in this game, and you can combine attacks while swinging, so I loved that. The heroes made this game a lot more fun and took away a lot of the I hate this game moments. Musically, this game has a pretty rad soundtrack, and it also fit the mood of the game very well. Even though it was like walking on a sheet of nails sometimes, Maximum Carnage was just an enjoyable game, So Kwing Reviews is proud to award Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage an excellent 9 out of 10. Sometimes the games that offer a hefty challenge are the ones you end up keeping in your collection for over 15 years. Anyway, a special thank you to all the K-Legion and fans for over 3 years. Without you guys, none of this would have ever been possible. So from the bottom of my heart, guys, thank you so much. You guys are the best fans in the world. Here is to another stellar 3 years of Kwing Reviews. My catchphrase as always is God bless and happy gaming. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and until the next time, gamers.